Hey guys, current day Jordan here. You'll find out in a little bit. This video was filmed about 6 months ago, back in September. I'm just now getting around to finally finishing up and posting it online. We bought this truck for my father-in-law. He lives all the way up in Michigan. He was looking for a good rust-free truck that would last him a long time, and in Michigan you don't really have those. So he found this one locally to me on Craigslist down here in Florida, and so I went and checked it out for him, took it on a test drive. I ended up thinking it was a great truck, so he sent me the money for it, and we purchased it and sat at my house for a couple weeks while they figured out a flight on the way down here to Michigan to drive it all the way back up. So while I had it for a couple weeks, I figured I'd spend $150 of my own money to fix some little odds and ends for him, do some maintenance, and just make sure it was good for that drive all the way up to Michigan. So they ended up picking up the truck, driving it up there. He told me how much he loved the truck. He drove it all the time. I was able to go up there and we picked up an S10 for my brother-in-law for a project he was gonna do, towed it great. Sadly, end of November, he ended up contracting COVID, and he went to the hospital for quite some time. While he was there, we found out that he had an undiagnosed lung issue that we didn't know about, and COVID really attacked that. And sadly, after fighting for a little over 2 months, he did end up passing away. So that's kind of why this video is pretty delayed. It's just been a little hard for me to work on. We've been dealing with a lot of, family stuff. So apologize for that. But yeah, we got some other videos in the works soon. So stay tuned and enjoy the video. Hey everybody, welcome back to my garage. Today we're gonna find out how far $150 can go on fixing up this old F-150. So about this truck, it is a 2002 F-150 Super Crew. It is the Lariat FX4. The four-wheel drive does work. The truck's actually in pretty good shape to start with. Has just over 144,000 miles on it. It is the 5.4 Triton, the 2-valve. Let's go take it out for a drive and I'll show you some of the things about it. And one of the very first things I noticed when I was driving this truck was the suspension. This suspension is the FX4 suspension, like I said. It has some upgraded shocks and stuff like that, but it is very floaty. I've noticed I don't want to say it rides like an old Cadillac where it's just spongy and it flops over every single little bump. So I think that's the first thing that I'm going to work on, is that. I'll also be doing the fluids and stuff like that, because I don't really know the history of this truck that much. I know it sat a little bit. The previous owner that I bought it from bought it to fix it up, and he does that with 2 or 3 vehicles a year, he says, on the side, and this would just happen to be one of them. So I know he says his mechanic went through the motor and did some maintenance on a couple things. They also changed out the 4x4 shift actuator because that went bad. However, I've tested all the 4x4, it all works great. I also had the seller that I bought it from put on brand new fresh tires. They are Kumho all-terrains, and they have really good snow rating actually, which is something I usually don't look for in Florida, but again, since it's going to Michigan, that was something that I thought would be important to him. Now, another thing I noticed are the brakes. Now, they may look good to the tripod that falls over, but in reality, they are quite squishy. And I did notice the brake fluid was quite dark, so I think that's another thing I'm going to do, is flush out all of the brake system. We'll see how much we can do there. Now, overall, the truck actually drives quite nicely. I don't really have any other complaints other than the suspension and the brakes. The power is good and smooth. It actually has a little bit of exhaust to it, which you might be able to hear on the camera. It's not too loud, but it's noticeable, and I think it's a good touch that they did. One thing I did notice about this truck is if you're going through a neighborhood like this and you hit a bump on one side and it's not pothole or something going about 20-30 miles an hour. Let's see if I can do it here. You get a bit of a death wobble. Don't know if you can see the steering wheel there, but it's kind of bad. We'll see. Hit it a little here. Yep. There's a little bit of a death wobble there in the steering wheel, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Take you around some of the things on the outside of the truck here. Overall, it's in pretty good shape. It's definitely used, and it's definitely needs a good wash. The headlights are a little yellow. The grill's faded out. They repainted the hood. However, they did a terrible paint line here. As you can see, it's like pink all around the edge. Not sure why they did that. Like I said, it has brand new 32.5-inch Kumho tires on it. Aftermarket wheels, I believe they're 16s instead of the 17s that come on at stock. It does have tint all the way around, which would be nice for Florida. Don't know about Michigan, but he'll probably enjoy that too. There's not really any dings or dents. There's a little scrape here on the fender. Got a couple stickers I'll have to remove here. The taillight is cracked. It's got the tow package. Again, another Buccaneer sticker. It's that aftermarket exhaust. It is a little surface rusted, but overall underneath the truck is pretty clean. Tailgate works nicely. No real issues there. Line-X bed liner, which is awesome. Cans came with it for free. Don't worry, we'll be cleaning that out. Back inside the garage here. It's way too hot out there, so I brought it back in here. The AC works amazing. You don't have to worry about that. Cruise control works. It has power pedals, those work. Power locks, power mirrors. The mirrors do not actually work. I'm not getting anything from them. But yeah, other than the cup holder and the power mirrors, the interior is in good condition. Has this Buccaneer steering wheel cover on it, which I'm not a fan of steering wheel covers, but actually looks pretty nice underneath. We'll pop this up here in a little bit. Now you may be asking yourself, what could you do for 150 bucks? Truly not that much. Well, I have quite a few boxes. We have a fuel filter, we have an oil filter, we also have oil, we have an air filter, we have a new taillight lens to replace the one that's cracked, we have a new hood strut because I forgot to tell you the hood doesn't like to stay up on itself. We have 2 brand new wiper blades, we have brand new shocks, front and rear. And we got all of this for less than $150. Now you may be asking where I got all of this stuff from. I actually got it from rockauto.com. Shocks were actually on factory closeout for $9 a piece. I really couldn't believe it, so I was really surprised they actually showed up. But hey, we'll see how they are. They have really good reviews, so we'll test them out. So I went ahead and jacked up the truck, took the wheel off. My dad happened to be in the area and stopped by to see what I was working on. Guess he didn't realize I was filming because he liked to stand in front of the camera. Anyway, used the other jack that I have there to jack up on the lower control arm and help squeeze the shock out between the upper control arm and the CV axle there, and then put the new shock in, tighten it all up. Really wasn't that hard to do. So the new shocks are in up here on the front. A couple things I did notice on this truck, and I'll be telling my father-in-law, because it's stuff I just don't have time to do. One of them is the steering linkage is very loose, which is probably why we have the death wobble. I don't have a tire on here now, but when I did, we could just rock this back and forth a good solid couple inches, even though it's in park and shouldn't be able to go that far back. The other thing I realized is that I just tied this up out of the way, but this is the front wheel speed sensor, and you can see it actually melted itself to the exhaust manifold there. So that's going to need to be replaced. Luckily, it is after the connection, so that won't be too bad to do. Just annoying. Well, the shocks are done out of the way. Let's move on to something easy. Windshield wipers. Well, I guess next up, we will move under the hood and do the air filter and check all the fluids. We also got to do that hood strut so it doesn't fall off. So moving under the hood here, there are some little tabs on the hood strut that we had to pop off there. That was pretty easy with a little pick and a screwdriver. Pop that one on there. The other one seemed to be in good condition, so we just changed that one. Popped out the old air filter, and as you can see, it was quite dirty, full of leaves. Grabbed the brand new one, made sure it looked the same, and popped it right on in there. Again, pretty easy to swap out myself. No real issues there. Next up on the list was checking the oil, so I went ahead and popped out the oil dipstick there, and as you can see here, I will pause the video. It was quite low. It was at the very base of the stick there, so that definitely meant it was time to do some change and make sure the proper amount was in there. So we went ahead and moved under the truck, popped off the oil drain plug, and went ahead and drained out that oil, which I happened to miss the pan and it went everywhere. As you can see, the oil was quite dark, so it was definitely time to swap that out. The oil filter was a little tricky to get to. Luckily, I still had the wheel off from replacing the driver's side front shock, so I could just reach in there and pull off that old filter and install a brand new one. I went ahead and filled up the truck with a full synthetic because I want to make sure that this truck lasts my father-in-law a long time. Alright, we are moving right along. So next up we're going to do the fuel filter, which happens to be right here between the two doors on the driver's side. So usually you can figure out what side your fuel filter's on if you see what side you fill up your gas tank on, because usually that's the side that the lines are going to run down to the engine. So I know it's on the driver's side because that's where the fuel filter is. So let's go check it out. So as you see right there is our fuel filter. And first thing before you disconnect it, take your new filter, put it up next to it, make sure it looks the same. It looks pretty much the same. I also like to date my fuel filters so I know. So you see there's one in, one out. So you know this is the right fuel filter. There's one in, one out, and it is roughly the same size. So now we'll swap it out. It is officially on there. That was a pain. I actually ended up bending the end of the old fuel filter trying to get it off. It was so stuck on there. But old one's off, new one's on. Well, I guess now the oil filter's done and out of the way, we can put this tire back on, suspension's on. We'll flip around, clean up our oil mess, and then I guess we'll get started on the back of the truck. So I got the truck all swapped around here in the shop, so it's now backed in. So let's take care of this bad tail light. Here's the old one, all cracked up and taped over, and there's the new one. Not bad for 20 bucks. I'll take it. Next up are the old stock shocks here. On this end. Wasn't bad at all. I just gotta get the top bolt. Hopefully you can see this. You can get your wrench right in between the top of the shock and the truck bed. Not the easiest, but not terrible either. And after a lot of fighting with that top bolt, we got a brand new shock in. Now one more to go. I think the other one will be easier because it's a lot easier to get to the top bolt. This one sucked. The second shock, fully installed. And all that's left mechanically is to bleed the brakes. Check this brake fluid out. Stick your baster, stick it up in there. Oh, that is dark. That is real dark. And here we are bleeding the brakes. This was real dark starting out. It's already starting to clear up. Little micro bubbles coming out here every once in a while. See them there? So, while my wife was inside pumping the brakes for me, she happened to pop out the cup holder using the truck key, just wedged in here and popped it out. And then I was able to get the spring, which is the most common problem of why these cup holders fail. The spring should be attached right there, just like you push it in, it pushes it back out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a small hole, I'm going to screw through it, and reattach it. So that's what everybody does, and it seems to work well. Let's do that now. So there we go. One screw right there. I missed the, tried to miss that, so it just went on the side right in that empty space. See how it works. And ta-da! Working cup holder. So as I showed you before, the ABS speed sensor cable happened to melt it to the header there. So I actually cut that piece out. As you can see, it's kind of toasty here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to resolder these wires together. There's enough good here on the end that I should be able to do this. And that'll be a free fix, which I looked up these speed sensor here. It's about $50, so that would be 1/3 of our budget just to fix this. So this should go well, and there's plenty of room here to run this wire up and away for the suspension. I'm not sure why they made it so long, but they did. So hopefully this is enough now. Cut, solder, heat shrink to the old plug there. We have plenty of flex still. I didn't touch anything down here. There's just so much extra here. So there it is, replugged in. Hopefully that works. So I would just like to point out that after all of the repairs we did, there are actually no check engine lights, no ABS lights, no airbag lights, no nothing on the dash right now, which is awesome. Okay, so now we're going to try to remove all of the stickers. Apologize, I live next to a busy street. We got those three up there. We have that Buccaneer emblem there, and then this Buccaneer sticker here. I got the Goo-Gone and a scraper. We'll see if I need to do that. Luckily, the truck's been sitting out in the sun here, so it's 100 and something feels like out. So hopefully these peel off nicely. And just like that, all the stickers are gone. The sticker's gone, the sticker's gone. Just the two stickers up there. And the sticker here are all gone. It was about 10 minutes. There's no real residue left over here. Came off pretty easily. And that was, I think, $3 for the Goo-Gone and that little scraper. So, well worth it in my opinion. So after I got all the stickers off of the truck, I went ahead and gave it a quick wash. I used Chemical Guys Mr. Pink in my pressure washer. Usually does a really good job. Sometimes it leaves a little bit extra residue, which isn't my favorite, but that's okay. Just needed a quick wash and this little scrub down. It actually cleaned up quite nicely and got the chrome to shine quite nicely on the front and rear bumper as well. After the exterior, I went ahead and moved on to the interior, and again just used some Chemical Guys Invisible Clean, some microfiber towels. You see me using a little brush there, getting into some of the crevices. I also went through and used their sprayable leather cleaner on the leather seats and got them all nice and pliable again. So I paid $5 and picked up this Duplicolor trim and bumper paint. This is the black. Let's see if we can restore some of this. There's some weird white marks in it, some rusted out marks here from some rust spots, so we're gonna see what this does. Here's a little before and after with the tailgate piece here. That's after, that's before. I think it does quite a good job. Pretty happy with it. It does not cover a lot. I think I'm just gonna get around this end, that end, we're already done. If I finish this off, then that's probably gonna be all that's left in this can. But I think it does a good job. And there we go, all the way around. Much nicer than say that. One more project I want to get done on this real quick is that the windshield washer pump doesn't seem to work. Swap relays, those are good. The fuse is the same as the regular windshield wipers and those work. So seems like the pump is bad, so time to grab that, go grab a new one. Here we go, out with the old one and with the new one. I decided I'm gonna clean this out first before I refill it, because that is grody. Definitely tell this truck was sitting for a little bit. And there we go, much cleaner in there. And got the new one snapped in there, hoses on, clips in. Let's fill it up and test it out. Okay, moment of truth here. We're gonna hit the button and see what happens. Look at that. Yeah. That's awesome. Great, now finish filling it up and she'll be good to go. So hopefully one more thing I can fix here is if you can see the shift indicator is off. We're in park right now. And that follows through. So, go under the dash here. And right there is the adjuster for the cable, which if you just screw this little gear here in and out, you get where you're supposed to be. However, you can see it is broken here. So if you pull this, that's actually where we need it to be, is there. As you see here, as I pull it, pulls it into place where I need it. I actually need it a little bit further than that, but I can adjust it. So what I'm going to do is use some zip ties to pull that in place where I need it. As you can see here, I just used one zip tie there, put it around there. Now it's just enough to take up most of the slack. And now if we go up top, it'll align so much better. And reverse, neutral, drive, second, and first. Back to park. Look at that. It's a free fix. Oh, cost of one zip tie. Well, the truck is done, and tomorrow it begins its 1,800-mile journey to Michigan. We did a lot to this truck on a very small budget. Sadly, there were a lot of things actually wrong with this truck that I didn't realize when we purchased it, but that's okay because the majority of them are fixed now, and I'm going to go over the list here in a second of everything we did and a few of the things that still need to get done. So we'll start off with what we did. I have a little list here. So windshield wipers, 2 windshield wipers, that's easy, $5 each. The hood strut, keep the hood up, that was $6. The tail lamp assembly, that was only $20 surprisingly, brand new one of those.
Air filter was $12. Fuel filter, $9. The shocks are the biggest thing that made a huge difference in the ride quality of this. It now rides like a truck, a bit stiff, but it rides like a truck. It no longer rides like an old Cadillac with blown out shocks. It rides so much better. You have a lot more control of where you're going on the road, and you don't feel like you're gonna sway everywhere. We got those on factory closeout, which usually those shocks are about 30-35 bucks a piece. So that would have been our entire budget right there, and we spent $9 a piece. So under $40, we got 4 brand new shocks for this, which is awesome. Oil filter, that was $4. Oil was about $15 for the 6 quarts. I bought a box of the full synthetic. It was $30 for the full 12 quarts. This takes 6 quarts, so that was half of it, so I said 15 bucks. A bottle of brake fluid that we drained all the brakes and refilled those. That was $5. That did make a good difference in the feel of the pedal. It feels a lot stiffer. I'm still going to recommend new pads and rotors because, again, this was sitting a bit. It has a firm pedal, but it does not feel like it's grabbing. We used Goo Gone in a scraper, picked up a little bottle of that for all of the stickers around the vehicle. That was $5, took it all off wonderfully. The black trim restore, that black trim restoring paint, that was $8 for a bottle of that to do around the bed. That was great. If we had a little bit more in the budget, I probably would have picked up another one of those and did the steps and so forth. Another thing we did was the windshield washer fluid pump. That happened to be bad, and that was $19. And then we filled back up that fluid, which a bottle of that fluid is $5. And if you tally that all up, I believe it's $152. So we're $2 over budget. Technically, I cheated if you don't, because I did not count tax or shipping cost. It cost me about 20 bucks to ship, so really I'm about 172 plus some tax on there. But if you don't count shipping and tax and stuff like that, we're at $152, which I say is close enough to 150 on that budget. Some of the things we did which were free is we fixed the cup holder. That was 1 screw. I'm not going to charge him for a screw. We fixed the front passenger speed sensor wire for the ABS. That would have been $50 right there just for that wire and sensor. We happened to fix that up with some solder and some heat shrink. No big deal there. When I got the vehicle, it quickly threw a check engine light, which kind of freaked me out. It didn't do it on the drive, on the test drive and stuff like that. And so I read the code, and it was an emissions code for the EVAP sensor. And so I checked that out, and one of the hoses that was supposed to go to it was just simply disconnected. Plugged that in, cleared the code. We've been driving around here and there, and that has not come back. So thankfully that was a free fix as well. Adjusted the shift linkage so that actually reads correctly on the dash now. That was 1 zip tie and about a minute worth of work, and that makes a huge difference. Now I know what gear I'm in when I'm putting it in it. That was great. There's still a few things I recommend to do. Again, the brakes, that's probably 125, 150 bucks. Another one is all of the steering linkage. As you can see, there's still a bunch of play in the steering wheel, and it's just, there's multiple joints in there, and if each little one has a little bit of play, then it just adds up into what we have here. Another one that I just found out is that the heat doesn't work. I'm from Florida. I usually don't think about the heat, but I figured I would test it out because that's just something that came to my mind to test out, and it does not work. So that would be the blender actuator, which I'm not looking forward to. Usually you'd pull the dash on that, but there are some videos online of people that just cut holes in the behind the glove box, and that you can get to that pretty easily that way. And then the other one is I have an intermittent ABS light. It doesn't come on originally. You'll be driving for a little bit, and all of a sudden the ABS light will come on. When I read the code, it doesn't come back to that front sensor that we fixed. Originally it was coming back to that. It does not do that anymore. It comes back, it's just the control module. It's the whole control module. So that would be a junkyard fix. And another one is the mirrors. I wasn't able to fix the mirrors. I think the switch went bad. I didn't have time to run to a junkyard again. That should hopefully be an easy fix. It's not the fuse. That is good. So yeah, this ends this truck, and hopefully we'll see it more in the future when I take trips up to Michigan. I hope it makes the trip up there and lasts them a long time. Thanks for watching.